Chapter 26. Wednesday late morning. Doreen, animals in tow, had come back several hours after watching the fire put out, and crashed on the grass in her backyard, looking for a few hours of sleep in the early morning sunlight. She should have made it to her room, but she was afraid she was covered in smoke, and knew she was too tired to take a shower right now. She dozed off and woke up to Muggs warming her on one side and Goliath on the other. Thaddeus had taken to sleeping on a weeping maple, right beside her. As she opened her eyes, she saw the tree was leafing out beautifully. It would be beautiful. She sat up, then groaned, her whole body aching and sore. Why was that? She looked down and saw the lumpy sod she'd been sleeping on. She stood and said, "We're heading in for a shower, guys." She led her bedraggled family back inside and stepped into a hot shower. She stood under the water for a long moment, trying to shake off the terrible night so she could think. When she was dressed and back downstairs again, she made her coffee a little stronger than normal, thinking the caffeine might help. As she waited, her phone rang. It was Mac. She groaned and said, "Good morning, Mac. You sound terrible." "Thanks. I appreciate that," she said sarcastically. His voice changed. "Are you okay?" "Outside of the fact that Steve's house burned to the ground last night, I'm fine," she snapped. "I wondered if you'd heard. I bolted out of my house in the middle of the night when I heard the sirens. So I have you to blame for my lousy night's sleep." Then she smiled. Of course he wasn't to blame. It was Steve's house on fire that had necessitated the sirens. But it was a great way to bug Mac. There was a shocked snort on the other side. "You're welcome," he said. "Remember that part about not getting yourself into danger?" "Yeah," she said. "Remember that part about not scaring me unnecessarily?" "It's hardly unnecessarily when Steve's house just burned to the ground," he said quietly. She winced. "All right, you get a point for that one. I'm not very awake. I fell asleep on the grass after I got home from watching the firemen work, and I'm still waiting for this very slow coffee pot to make me coffee to kick me awake." He chuckled, his voice low, deep, and husky. "I wish I could have seen that." She cracked a smile. "You probably would have been hollering at me, but Muggs was curled up on one side while Goliath was on the other. Thaddeus was on the closest tree. So it was definitely a fun way to wake up. I'm exhausted though." "I'm sure you are," he said. "But maybe we can get some answers now. I figured that Steve was probably dead inside his house. Have you heard reports of that yet?" "Not yet," he said. "I'm there now." "What?" She straightened and looked at the coffee pot. "Why didn't you tell me? I'm a cop, remember? I'm checking out the circumstances of the fire. I can tell you the fire started well after midnight because the sirens woke me about 4 or 5 a.m. And for sure, you'll find a male body in the house." Silence. "Do you really think so?" "Hell yes. Like you said, a cheetah never changes his spots." "I didn't say that," he said. "And the phrase is, a leopard never changes his spots." She waved her hand in the air. "Whatever. You said this would happen." "No, I said it would likely happen to you, and I thought Steve would skip town." "I don't think he acted fast enough," she said. Finally, the coffee maker beeped in front of her, and she grabbed the pot and poured herself a cup. Then she stepped outside into the early morning sun. "He probably told somebody about my file and got himself killed for his carelessness." "You could be right about that," he said, his voice thoughtful. "Which means you're next." She glared at her phone. "I've already had a night from hell, so if you're using your scare tactics again, I really don't need it." "I'm not using scare tactics," Max snapped. "Be sensible. If a body is found in this fire scene and if it's Steve, it only makes sense that you could be the next victim. There have been no other victims in the last 20+ years, so I highly doubt it'll be an issue. The thing was, she knew Mac was right. She just didn't want to admit it. There'd be no living with him if she did. You do have fire insurance on the house, right? Mac asked. Yes, she said. I asked Nan yesterday. And then she realized what she had said. He chuckled. At least you're taking it seriously. Or at least a little bit seriously. I'm taking it seriously, but there's a limit to how seriously I can. Just take it easy. Have a couple cups of coffee, and maybe I'll stop by when I'm done here. Good. I need an update. Just then she yawned loud and long. And she groaned and said, I'm getting off now. And she hung up. Even hanging up on him again made her smile. She walked out to the front porch steps and sipped the strong black coffee. As soon as it hit her throat and moved down to her stomach, she let out a happy sigh. This might be the devil's brew, but I'm definitely in heaven right now.